Coach Spavital.
Holgerson said Letty Brown pretty much isn't a freshman at all, even though he technically is a freshman on the roster, but act like it doesn't play like it. Just elaborate more on that and why he's more like an older player instead of just a first-year freshman.
Yeah, I don't think he blinks. I think that's one of the main things about him. You know, obviously he's got all the physical tools. He has the intangibles. But the thing about him is he puts the work ethic. Like, he puts the work in, and you know, tremendous work ethic. And you know, you talk to him after the game, got a little rolled up. You ask him if he's okay. He says he's fine. You know, and then you kind of monitor him, see what happens, and he approaches the game like a pro, and he put a lot of extra time into just treatment and just making sure that he's on the same page in terms of mentally and physically. And I think that's just what makes him a little bit different than everybody else.
Dana mentioned they do some things schematically, similar to what Tony does, and they get a lot of TFLs. Is that high on your list of concerns, staying on schedule with them because they do create a lot of negative yardage plays?
Yeah, I think that it changes how you call the game too, and I think that's what happened last week with the Kansas game. You know, we kept getting hit for negative plays that kind of tweaked my play calling at times, where you know, you're going for more high efficient, you know, pass plays at times when you're behind the chains and because your run game wasn't popping the way you wanted it to in that first half. But these guys are very multiple with what they do, a little bit different than what Gibby does, but they cause confusion. And what they do is everything looks the same before every single snap. And they're either playing man or dropping 8 or they're zero pressure in you. They're doing all sorts of things, you know, and that's where it's a big week on being disciplined and making sure we're going through the progressions and making sure that we're ID'd to the right guys, because there's problems if we don't, you know, if we lose that lack of focus each play.
I don't know schematically how similar they are to Kansas, but it looked like Kansas chose to use a robber to take away some of your RPOs, the quick stuff, the slants and stuff. Do you anticipate that, seeing that going forward as kind of a template to counteract what you're doing a little bit? Yeah,
I think that's a lot of teams are starting to do that too. What they did do a couple things that are different. What they came out that they had not shown in terms of how they ran their stacked front with the Mike backer that was about 7 yards behind. You know, it was kind of 3 levels. It was like a diamond 3-2-1 all the way in the box, which, you know, Iowa State runs that. So, you know, we're getting good reps at it is the way I look at it. And you know, the teams, the way I talk to the offenses is teams are going to keep things multiple. They're going to try to change it up on you. They're going to try to keep you on your toes and get you off balanced. And we've got to be able to react and identify what they're trying to do and make sure that we go attack it. And I think, you know, we met as a complete unit and watched the entire game. And I thought there was a lot of good dialogue, and I think we're just continuing to keep getting on the same page.
Joe Brown available for this week?
Should be, as far as I know. Yeah.
And what does that mean to your front as far as having him back?
It just adds more depth, and you can start practicing these guys more in certain positions. You know, when you get into the whole injury with Joe being out, now you got to take like Jacob Buccigrossi and have him play some guard and get center reps where you're stealing reps at center for him. So now you're starting to gain more depth, and we can work more bodies and let them get good at their craft for that week. You know, and we've always kind of been opposed of having these guys work multiple positions throughout the course of the week, and that's what we were forced to do the past couple of weeks.
Because these guys are a little different. You're identifying points the same, or is Will looking for the same things he would as opposed to Kansas or Texas Tech, or is he looking for different things?
Very similar. You know, they're a 3-down team, so there's going to be things that trigger what we're looking for. The team, you know, they're different than what you do versus a 4-down team, but there's a realm of what you can do out of a 3-down front, and you know, there's things that everybody's looking for, and you know, as coaches, we find the things that we identify that could possibly hurt us and make sure that they're aware that if we get this certain look, then this is what we need to do.
With TJ Simmons kind of being the main guy last week, just how comfortable are you feeling right now that any of those guys, or maybe more, can be your main target in any given game?
Yeah, I think, it's relieving for me, but I think it's really good for Will. I think you see Will having the comfort to be able to distribute the ball like he is right now. God, I don't know how many guys are touching the ball a game, but it's a good amount. And that's kind of what you want to get to, where when you're looking at us from a scouting report, there's a lot of people, across the board getting touches. So that's going to, I think, going to help us in the long run, where we're not showing just tendencies, just leaning on one receiver the entire time. But am pleased with where TJ is.
Where's Marcus Sims in his progression of just overall where you want him to be?
Yeah, Marcus, he keeps getting better every day. Main thing with me right now and him is making sure that he's running as fast as he can, like where we're keeping him fresh, because this is the time where we're starting to hit a wall a little bit. Everybody does. Halfway through the season, I think the bye week can't come at a good time. Where you keep him fresh, because I think he has a speed that scares a lot of defenses, and that's what we need to continue to play with, is have that threat where he can take it over the top anytime.
Your rotation at wide receiver compared to last year allow those guys to stay hopefully fresher in the second half of the year compared to last year?
Yeah, I think Coach Carrier does a really good job at monitoring that. We ran into some issues with Tevin not finishing the game where, you saw Dom come in at the slot position and he didn't blink, and he executed the plays cleanly, which is tough, because he hadn't repped it ever, But Coach Carrier does a good job at teaching them the whole scheme, making sure these guys have an understanding of what they're trying to do, and he has a good feel for looking at them and understanding when and what time we need to give them a breather. And it's hard to do, especially when you're running 80 plays, especially when it's 80 degrees. It's just every, the climate changes a lot with us right now, because I think, you're going to practice in 80-degree weather here, and it's going to be 40 degrees when you kick off versus Iowa State. So Carrier just has a good feel of where they're at, and, he handles all those substitutions and does a good job.
I know every coach would like to have Earl Campbell at running back and Jerry Rice at wide receiver.
Yeah,
What are the benefits of having three running backs and 5, 6 receivers, 7 receivers that you can throw to? I mean, as far as compared to how do you make those guys?
It goes back to the depth issues. I thought that's where we hit a wall last year, is when you got to really this point in the season and we didn't have very great backups at that time that we trusted or Will trusted, and we ended up running those guys kind of ragged in a way where they weren't as explosive as they need to be. And when you have a lot of different backs that you're confident in, a lot of different receivers, that's naturally just going to play out throughout the course of the season, because you got Sinkfield coming back, you got all it's a long season, and the attrition of it, you need all these guys to play. And that's why I like having a lot of different options, because as a play caller, you don't change what your thought process is because you have confidence in whoever you're putting out there. Where last year, I only had certain plays that I can run at certain times, because these were the guys that practice it and these are the guys that could do it. So that's always a good thing, to have multiple players.
Who your running back is, does that change your offense at all? Or?
No, not really. We have just short yardage situations. You're going to get different guys in, different personnel.
Is there a window on Sinkfield right now, as far as this return?
It's just, it's day by day, but he's getting close.
Haven't seen too many games out of Will like we did Saturday. What's his response been in a couple of days since then?
He takes a lot of ownership in it, and I said to the message to the team that, Sunday night, that there's no finger pointing in this room. We're all in this together. Everybody needs to improve their game. And that's why we watched it together, because Will's going to take the ownership of it because he's the quarterback, and rightfully so. And, he just looks at me. I think he's eager to get back out there and play and kind of redeem himself a little bit. And he understands that he feels like he needs to play better. The 3 picks, it was kind of bizarre. I hadn't seen that before, where there's a possibility of 3 pick sixes. But, it happens. You got to move on, and he's taking the ownership of it, and I think he's ready to have a good week of practice.
Along the lines of what Bob was talking about with the running backs, what would having a long touchdown run do for what you're trying to accomplish offensively? To balance out maybe what you're doing in the passing game and having that threat from the running game. Letty almost had one.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting close. I think that'd be big, just to close the drive off with a long touchdown run. But the way teams play the Big 12 is they're going to rush 3 and they're going to drop 8 and they're going to keep everything in front. This is a team that is going to give you a good box to run the ball into, but they're really disruptive up front, and they're trying to spill the ball to the perimeter and allow all these linebackers and safeties rally to the ball and keep everything in front. You look at the explosive run tape on these guys, not very many people hit big runs on them, unless it's just something uncharacteristic that happens. But they're very sound in what they do. Yeah, you would love to have a long touchdown run, but I'll take those, 10-plus runs any single time.
You feel defenses are respecting your run game?
I think they have to. They do. Especially how these guys are hitting. We had, I don't know how many it was, but we probably had around 15 plays over 10 yards of rushing, which is good, it was a good number. I don't know exactly what it was, but these guys were getting chunk yardage.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Yeah.